After shoes, there is no more important piece of equipment than your belt, and no other company provides the service, quality, and prices that Dominion gives you. Whether you're looking for a 3 or 4 inch lever or prong, straps, or their newest offering, an all-leather dip belt, this is the place to get the highest quality fast. Don't wait months to get your belt. They have your belt in stock now, ready to help you crush more PRs. And you're supporting a small American business when you order. Go to DominionStrengthTraining.com and use code LOGIC to get 10% off. That's DominionStrengthTraining.com to get your new belt.
You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship.
Welcome, everybody, to the Barbell Logic podcast. I am here today. We've kicked Matt off the show today so that we could have Katie and Blake on from Dominion Strength Training. A lot of you might not know them by name, but you might have a very beautiful belt or straps or dip belt in your gym that you use often and look fondly at this beautiful leather that they've created. So welcome to the show today, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thanks. We're excited to be here.
Yeah. And I'm pretty jazzed about this because not only do I love their products, but we met each other back before Dominion Strength Training really fully came into existence. We met each other all in Atlanta when we were living there. And since then, we were just joking about this. We each moved to beaches. Blake and Katie moved to one crazy part of the country, and I moved to the other crazy part of the country in Florida and California, respectively. And so now we are crazy people living by the beach now.
Yeah, the beach is worth it, though.
Right? It's totally worth it. I don't even care.
Decision. That's exactly how I feel. It's worth it.
It's 100%. All you Midwesterners listening to this are probably just like, get out of here.
I know.
So when did you start lifting versus when did you start making lifting belts?
Well, when we all kind of met up back at good old Atlanta Barbell, we were coming from CrossFit and we were kind of done with the Metcon stuff, but we were familiar with barbell training a little bit just from what you do in CrossFit. So we come into Atlanta Barbell and we're doing our touch and go deadlifts and our push presses and everything.
We're all giving you side eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, Cassie walked over and she's like, "Can I give you some pointers?"
Oh.
So day one, we were getting a little coaching, but the cool thing they had there was that wall of belts. You remember that?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Like 100 belts on this one wall. And we were like, oh, those are cool. We got to get one of those. And you could just walk up and down the line and see, everything in the world that was available. And it ranged from like the cheap stuff you could buy on Amazon. And then you'd look at something else. You're like, this is a lot nicer. What is this? You're like, oh, this is, an American made belt. And so like, cool, let's get one of those. You go and check it out. And it takes 8 weeks. Very expensive. And it was kind of a thing like, well, why isn't there something in between? Like, I'm willing to spend more than $25 and get something good, but I don't want to wait 2 months. And that's kind of how this whole idea of, maybe we could do something that's in the middle kind of started.
And did you have that thought right away? Like, that's super entrepreneurial. Like, what's the problem? I want this. I will do this.
My background is in mechanical engineering. And I also, at the time, kind of had a side gig on Amazon where I'd sell different products and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I always kind of had a little bit of an eye out for something like that. I thought this was too big of a project at the time, but the idea at least was, kind of there as soon as I realized kind of what the options were and that there seemed to be this middle ground that wasn't being covered well.
Yeah, you're so right. I remember then we would tell people you need to get a belt and we would be like, you can't lift with this Velcro thing anymore. And they're like, okay, I ordered one, but like you just said, it's not going to be here for 8 to 12 weeks. And so how quickly were you able to come up with an idea for a belt that people could get right away?
Well, so now we're making these 100% ourselves. Mm-hmm. At the time, the situation was, I'm going to have to find somebody to do this for me. And that basically meant going overseas. And what I did was look at every belt that I could look at, whether it was on the belt wall or I bought several just to have at home and measure.
Some R&D.
Right. What's a good belt? What's a bad belt and why? And kind of came up with a list of criteria, and within a few months was getting samples from overseas companies to look at. So it didn't take that long. It was probably, 6 months from idea to having a few things in hand.
That's rad. And Katie, when you started talking about this, what were your thoughts?
I've never made anything in my life. And now that's what I do, just to be completely honest.
That's cool.
But so I worked at the CDC in Atlanta.
That's right. Yeah.
I was a microbiologist, and I didn't make things per se, but I did end up training an 8-hour long protocol. And I would teach people how to perform that really well. And it was very detailed. And so I got the idea of making something like that. I was like, okay, the idea sounds cool, but this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Blake, because I have zero background in contacting a manufacturer, designing anything.
I wouldn't even know where to start. That's amazing. Just
Exactly. But I'm going to be honest, Blake has never said he's going to do something and not done it. So I said, okay, well, I know
Except
you
for
can
take
do
out
it.
the trash.
You said it. So big important things. And yeah, I'm really not trying to blow smoke up. Anyways, but really, he has it. So I knew he could do it, and he seemed 100% confident. I was like, cool, this is your pet project. It's what you do when you get home. You live your life. Let me know if I can. Exactly. I honestly, I had no idea in the beginning, and I had seen him do very similar stuff for the job that he worked at. And so I was like, okay, I know he could design things. I've seen him do it, and I've seen him work in a way. He's describing this as a similar process. So I'm sure he'll figure it out. But I had no idea how long that was going to take.
right.
Oh man, I hope I can help. But also it's those people who say can I help you? And you're like,
Can you?
Can you? Yeah, that was me. So I just said, go team.
And what was your job at the time, Blake?
At the time, I was working with a company called Function Engineering, and we were engineering consultants. So people would come to us that have designed themselves into a corner, and we'd help them get out of it. And we had contacts overseas for sourcing products. We built a lot of prototypes for people.
Oh, cool.
We did projects for Coca-Cola and other, different places there in Atlanta.
Design themselves into a corner. So were you just a bunch of elitist engineers who were just ha, look what you've done?
No, we just took over where other people just got fed up and quit, I think. And with some of the companies we worked for, they seemed to have just unlimited budgets to throw money at the problem. So when they felt like they were stuck, they're like, let's bring in these other guys, and
nice.
See if they can get us out of it, get some new ideas.
But that job was, I feel integral, because your whole job there was basically here's this really difficult problem that other people can't fix. And you have to figure it out all on your own. Good luck. Or maybe one or two other people. So that's our life now. So.
Yeah, if it weren't for that experience, this would have been much harder to do.
And there's a difference where in those fields, you're walking into something that already exists. And now what you get to do is create it right from the beginning. You can create your own problems, or you can have something from the ground up that you can build exactly as you want it. Was that kind of a new way to approach work that you enjoyed right away, or was there a bit of a learning curve?
Well, we definitely created some of our own problems too, or at least we put in an initial order, and it was for 100 belts. It was kind of a small order, relatively speaking. That turned out pretty much okay. Put in another order. That turned out more or less okay. And so right around, it was several months before Christmas, we decided, all right, let's go ahead and put in a big order. These are going to sell great at Christmas. It's all going to be perfect.
What year is this?
This is 2017.
Okay.
So just before Christmas 2017.
Cool.
So we've got this big order of 1,000 belts coming over, and they get here around Thanksgiving, and we open the box, and they've been slow boated over on the ocean. All right. They weren't sealed up properly. And so all of the hardware on every single one of these belts is rusted.
Oh my God.
Can't sell a single one. And pretty much all the money I had at that point to tie up in this business idea is sitting here in these boxes. And what do we do?
What did you do?
We had a cardboard castle for our Christmas decorations in our townhome.
Yeah. It was pretty wild because we were living in a townhome.
Oh my gosh.
We don't even have room for all this stuff. So like all the furniture is pushed up against the walls. And luckily we had some friends that didn't live too far away that had like a small little garage outside, little mini machine shop. So we potentially had a place to go do the repair work. I had to work with the company to get them to send us all new hardware. But this basically meant that now we're doing all the work, 100%, drilling out all these rivets. Katie got a lot of hands-on time with a drill press, drilling out nearly 4,000 rivets.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Don't you dare show that video that you have with me. Like, I look like the poofiest Christmas elf. I'm wearing like a beanie. So it's like winter in Atlanta. It gets cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're in a garage and there's no, heater, air conditioning. We had little space heaters for our hands because they would get so cold. You couldn't feel your finger. So I had on like 4 layers. I was also heavier anyways. I looked great. I was like, why did you save this video?
Pinterest champion.
Right. Such a guy. He was like, you look awesome in this video. Look at the drill press. I was like, I look terrible, but thank you for saying I'm awesome.
Definitely a dude thing to do.
Yes. But like, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't know how to work a drill at that point, like any power tools. So using this like freestanding drill press was a big deal. And that kind of, for me, this whole business was a big mind shift of being very like self-reliant because I was in a training position at like my government job, but I knew I had 10 people I could go to if something went wrong. And so this was like, kind of can't go to someone, you have to figure it out. And that's been pretty great. And we kind of had to kind of learn that early on.
Yeah, no one's going to save you.
Yeah. So that was that whole Christmas, basically from a little after Thanksgiving to January the next year. We were doing this in our spare time because we still had full-time jobs at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Get off work and head to your friend's house and start working on belts to try to get your money back out of this deal.
And were most of those pre-sold?
No, because at that time we were selling these pretty much just on Amazon. And so we were just out of stock, basically.
Oh, right.
So we could get these things going. But the good thing was people never stopped asking about it. We were also selling them in the gym and other people were kind of getting to know about it. So we knew we had something going right. The whole time we were out of stock, we still had interest. So that's what made me try the whole overseas thing one more time after that debacle. It went really no better. At that point, we were renting a room at Atlanta Barbell.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, it had something like approximating a workspace. We did a smaller order this time. It came in. The hardware wasn't the issue, but there were just problems all over these belts. They were too thick. They were too thin. They had cuts in them. They had stitching problems. They had things that we didn't have the equipment to fix.
Yeah.
And I had done so much to try to prevent something like that from happening after the first issue that I basically decided, this seems unmanageable unless somebody's willing to go over to where these things are being made and watch them as they come off the line. I don't know if this is a tenable situation. So I don't even know who said it, but it was almost as a joke. Like, man, the amount of time we're spending on each one of these belts, we could probably just make them ourselves.
Right. So my job, like previously, I had to do this protocol to where like every step really mattered. And at the very end, you generate data and you couldn't fudge it. Like if you messed up or anything, like it was going to show. So you had to do it right. And if you messed up, you had to go back and correct it. And so drilling out all these belts and then fixing them, you see all the things that you're like, none of these things, you get 10 belts and none of them are the same. And you're like, oh my gosh, like how? Yeah, I remember saying like, we could do this better ourselves. And that was also me being blissfully unaware that he would actually consider that to be an option.
And now I'm looking at you guys. Blake's in this beautiful workshop that you have right behind you. Your squat rack's there. All of these tools are there. Like, you're totally doing it. Florida man and Florida woman make handcrafted leather belts.
Yes. We've yet to find like any alligators right by our shop, but I'm sure that's coming.
Okay, if you do, I want the alligator skin belt. Just save that for me.
Yes. Of course.
Thank you.
Any pythons? Those as well.
Any weird, just no possums. Don't give me anything possum related.
You get a weird Christmas present, you know who it's from now.
100%. It's either Henry or Katie.
Exactly. I'll say to Henry.
So Henry's my dog, for those listeners who wouldn't know about that for any reason. So when did it start to, I guess, really enter your conversations that this was going to become like what you do?
Well, we knew from how the sales went when things were going okay with the belts that there was probably enough demand there to justify it being our full-time income if we could keep it going. So after the idea came up, maybe we could do this ourselves, we started to put that on paper. We went to see a friend of ours in Tennessee who does, highly custom leather work. He taught us kind of some of the basics. He told us who sells the equipment, who sells the leather. And we, then went to Texas and looked at the company that, sells all the leather machinery, like our sewing machines and everything we have in here today. We bought from them. So we used a bunch of that stuff and kind of said, maybe we could do this. I don't think there was ever a sharp jumping off point. It was just kind of keep looking at it, keep looking at it, keep looking at it, and heck, let's do it.
Was there ever a time when you're just like, we need to stop this?
I had a moment.
Yeah.
That is like forgotten, I guess. So I've always said that Blake is the one who jumps off the cliff and I'm just tethered to him. And I'm like, no. But then I'll do it. I'll jump.
Great
in
relationships.
Yeah. But he makes me
kind of push your boundaries a little bit.
Yeah. He makes me push my boundaries. And that's something that I'm doing better at, like as an adult. But honestly, I'm still learning and our life has got exponentially better. So I'm fine with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember when we went to Texas, I was pretty intimidated by all the machinery. And maybe it's because 100%, I'm not a mechanically inclined person. And Blake is much more comfortable with machinery, obviously. So when we went there, I remember we were eating at some like Mexican restaurant afterwards. And I had a margarita and I was like, I just don't know about this. He was like, what are you talking about? We're definitely going to go forward. Okay, so you're not hesitant at all? Is it just me? And then I was like, maybe I'm just going to trust.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, if it was just me, like,
yeah,
I'm going to sew my finger or something. This is not going to happen. So
that's rad.
But yeah, he's not like he's not one of those people that, Blake, he's not one of those people that says, oh, I could do this. And then you see the work and you're like, you did it, but it could be better. He's not that kind of person. So I was like, okay, this is a really big gamble, but
yeah,
you've never bluffed before, right? Like, I think we got this. So
that's cool.
There was a lot of things that had to go right. I definitely believed we could do it after I saw all the steps involved. I never doubted that we'd be able to do it. Whether it'd be sufficient to support us both and not having to do anything else, I wasn't sure. But I knew we could make the belts.
There was a time when I taught a lifting class and you came in and did a talk to that group about belts. And I never knew there was so much to talk about belts. Like there were so many details that you explained and the importance of how the buckle works and the length of everything. And even just I don't know what these things are called, but like, what's that loop where the belt
keeper
goes through after it's buckled? The keeper, like there's so much to that. And this must have been in early 18 or still in 17 or something. But when you watch someone who's just like an artist at their craft doing what they do, and I was just like, holy cow, like this is an art to him. It was amazing.
I remember that. That was like a group of firefighters, I think.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. I've always thought if our business required me to be really good at marketing, we'd probably be screwed. The only thing I know how to do is explain it to somebody the way I would want it explained to me.
So as an engineer.
Yeah, I want all the detail. I want to know why this is good. I want to know why something else is not good. All those different details. So that's the only marketing I know how to do is explain it in that way.
Well, that's important for marketing because then you'll know what makes your product different. And that's like one of the key points of marketing. That's what I just learned from our chief of marketing. That makes me wonder, like, what is it about yours that your belts that you think is the most special and what really sets you apart?
Well, I mean, it starts with the raw materials. one of the things that I noticed first from some of the overseas belts is that when you cut into them, it looked completely different from some of the other belts. You've got this, what looks like brown leather on the outside. You cut into the middle of it, and on the inside, it's white.
Yeah.
I found out that's something called split leather, which is not a structural grade of leather. It's after they've already used the top parts of the hide that are actually strong, and they've got what's been split off. That's why it's called split leather.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, well, what can we do with this? We can put it on the inside of a belt, slap 2 pieces of suede on it, and nobody will ever know.
It's like beef jerky. It's all like,
Yeah.
like particle board.
Except more stretchy, which is not ideal for a belt, you know?
Right. The exact opposite of what you want.
It's like, it's so comfortable. You're like,
Doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where it starts, is just not skimping on the raw materials, because there's only so much you can do if you're not using the best stuff that you can get your hands on. And then from there, it's just the design elements of a belt. Like, you have to spend time with a lot of other belts using them and saying, all right, why is this one easy to put on? Why is it easy or not to take off? And why? What are the wear points on this belt? Are the holes like slowly becoming ovals and one is tearing into the other? Is the suede peeling up? Is the stitching fraying? Like, why are these things happening? Can we do that differently? So I just think we do all of those little details. We're at least thinking about them. We can do them a little bit better than somebody who's not thinking about them, for sure. And it's not any one thing you can point to, but kind of just the totality of the whole deal, where you're thinking about every little step along the way. You end up with something that just is better than something that's put together by, just another guy working the sewing machine somewhere.
Or wanting to, I guess, cut cost corners by getting it from overseas.
Right.
And also, I guess one of the things I think of is that we both, and I'm not sure if other manufacturers do this as well, but like, we both have been, for the most part, once we get our shop set up, have been actively training, and we use our belts, and we each use various styles of all of our belts. So we're constantly using them. And that, I think, helps tremendously, because people will have a question about wear. And, I'm 3,000% sure my answer. And by the way, if you contact us, it's me.
That was going to be one of my other questions.
Just us here. Yeah. But I mean, I think that really helps, that like, we're not just making the belts, like we use the belts on a daily basis.
Important.
Yeah. So
Microgains continues to offer you solutions to add weight to your barbell, dumbbells, and weightlifting machines in small increments. No more 10-pound jumps. Microgains offers fractional plates for dumbbells and barbells. They also offer loadable dumbbell handles, 5 and 10-pound Olympic plates, micro plates in pounds or kilograms, and a deadlift jack. They also now offer a gym pin to micro-load your lat pull-down or other machine exercises. Pretty cool. Go to microgains.com to get the equipment you need to get more PRs. That's Microgains with a Z. Use code LOGIC at checkout to get 10% off. That's microgains.com. Your press will thank you. How do you guys split up the roles of the company?
I talk to people.
We were just joking that Katie does not have a mute button.
Yes, I don't, which means I'm put on emails. So, I mean, I typically, Blake answers emails too, but I pretty much will do communications. I try to handle that. There's so many things that Blake, he's the mechanical engineer at heart. There's certain things that he just needs to do. And
Spreadsheets, man, all the spreadsheets.
Yes.
Oh, you're the spreadsheet guru. Nice.
Yeah. So I try to handle as much of everything else that I can, right? That's not like, here's a heavy piece of machinery that could break down. Like, I could fix that, but the amount of time it would take me to work on that and then Blake looking at it, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there one day once we have people to do all these other tasks, right? But
in terms of the manufacturing, there's a lot of overlap. So like the leather will come in the door in boxes, we'll open up the boxes, and we'll both be sorting. We'll be sorting by size, by grade, all that kind of stuff. When it's time to actually make something, we'll pull straps and do different prepping tasks together. If it's belts that need to be glued up, we'll typically do that together. The finishing stuff is where we kind of start to split up, like all the cutting and holes that need to be punched. We do that with a press. Katie normally runs the press, and I'll be sitting on the sewing machine while she's doing that. Edge finishing, we all do. So there's a lot of overlap in all the actual manufacturing.
Yeah. Everyone's always surprised to learn. Or if anyone who's visited their shop, they always look at me and they're like, those are some nice sewing machines, huh? You really like those? And I was like, I don't know. I've never.
They do.
Those are not mine. He uses those. They're like, what? Like, I'm going to one day, but they're pretty heavy duty. They're older. They're needle and awl machines, which means there's a needle that comes down on the top and then an awl punches through on the bottom.
Oh, wow.
They're the real deal. They don't stop if you sew the wrong thing in them.
They really are from Texas.
Yes. So I'll get there one day, but one step at a time, baby stepping into sewing.
Yeah. Sounds like you guys have it delegated up pretty well, playing to your strengths and working on things together.
I never knew sewing was his strength, but
yeah.
I didn't either.
They don't teach that in engineering school.
Not usually.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The man of many talents.
What's your long-term vision for the company? What do you want Dominion Strength Training to be like?
Well, so many things can change so fast. It's almost hard to plan out more than a few years.
Yeah, 5 years is unreasonable. Like a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially with the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big decision is like whether we want to turn this into a business where we're not involved in the day-to-day operations, or if we want to have it be a situation where we essentially own our job, which is kind of what it is now. That's going to be kind of how it goes going forward. And that's going to be, hiring people and seeing how that works out. And, are we able to train people to do what we do, or is it too much of a headache? And because it's not that hard for us to do it ourselves. It doesn't take an inordinate amount of time. It takes the same amount of time that a full-time job would.
Oh, that's cool.
That'll probably be the big decision coming up, is how that goes. And then long term, it'll, that picture will very much depend on that, I think, as to whether, this becomes a business asset that you sell, or is it just something you keep in the family? Does it become a family business? It's still so new that, we're just kind of figuring those things out as we go. Right now, it's make all the belts you can as fast as you can.
Yeah. Well, they're so beautiful. Their belts, if you haven't seen their belts, like, go to dominionstrengthtraining.com and look how gorgeous these pieces of leather are. It's stunning. And I have leather straps of yours that you guys printed the Barbell Logic icon on, which is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. The closed loop one?
Yes. Oh man, those are my favorite.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you like them.
I'm curious if some of your belts are like better for certain lifts than others. Like when you guys are training, do you wear a different, like a lever belt for this lift and a buckle belt for another one? Or is it kind of one can work for everything?
A lot of that comes down to personal preference. The only thing I would say is, like, I'm about 5'11", 6 feet, depending on what shoes I've got on. I'll use a 4-inch for squats, for presses. I still go down to a 3-inch for deadlifts. I just can't quite be comfortable and get in position. So there's a little bit of, body shape or, anthropometry aspect to it. But in terms of lever versus prong, so much of that is preference. I'll use a lever on presses simply because I'll get done with presses and I want to get my wrist straps off as quick as possible, but I don't want the belt, sitting there tight around my waist, so I can flip that open really quick and then take the straps off. I like a prong for squats because I feel like I fluctuate enough day to day that I don't want to have to be taking the lever on and off, so I can just go a notch tighter. And, I've got the luxury of being able to test out, as many belts as I want. So if I want, 4 different belts, most people I think can get away with 1, maybe 2, if you're in that in between the 4 and the 3-inch.
Yeah.
Like Carl Shute, he squats 600 pounds and he's got a single ply, 4-inch. You don't have to have a fancy belt to be able to lift heavy.
I didn't know he lifted in a single ply. Holy cow.
Yeah, he's got one of our 4-inch single plies.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a tank. So how would you help someone decide if they should get a lever or a buckle?
I always point out like their goals as far as like if they're trying to gain or lose a significant amount of weight. I would say if you're like currently in the process, because so many people are, or they're like, I'm getting this and I'm about to start this, whatever linear progression and I'm going to get big and strong. And I hear, okay, if you do it slow, you're not going to gain inches around your waist. If you do it like most people do, including myself, I've totally been there, and you dirty bulk, your waist is probably going to go up with you and you're going to get so strong. So that's fine. But I always say like, keep that in mind with a lever, because then you might fluctuate more and you might go up, and a buckle might be easier with that process, right? Because like Blake said, you can easily change pull from lift to lift or day to day or workout to workout. If you're not, if you've been lifting already, or you're just like, you're maintaining your weight, that's not something that's on your radar, then a lever belt might be better. It is easier to get on and off. So it's a big plus. The only really downside is if you change holes from workout to workout or from movement to movement. I know sometimes I wear my belt tighter on my press than I would on my squat. I also am bougie like Blake, and I have a lever belt and like multiple buckle belts.
If I were you guys, I would totally have all different kinds.
I say that I'm bougie, but like all of my belts are ones that we've like made mistakes on. It's got like a weird stamp, and I'm like, I'll just use this one.
Special. It's unique.
I made myself one belt out of all the ones I use.
Oh man, that's rad.
But I'll go back and forth. I like a buckle or a lever. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick a buckle. But again, I think that's mostly preference.
Yeah. I'm team buckle. Like my weight fluctuates so frequently depending on like what I ate, like hormonal cycle. Like, did I just spend a weekend in Springfield where we ate our faces off? Like,
yes,
I need the bloat buckle.
Like 1 week a month.
Exactly.
I am not moving that lever up.
No.
But I need to.
But I know I can get through this.
Yeah. I don't need those emotions during a training. So yeah.
For someone in the market for their first belt, what would you tell them to pay attention to?
Normally, like Katie was saying, we start with the training goals. Exactly what are they trying to do? And usually we point them to a 3-inch belt. You know, even though I use a 4-inch for stuff now, there was a year where I used a 3-inch for absolutely everything. That'll work for most everybody. And if at some point you decide you want to move up to a 4-inch, that's fine. As far as the 3-inch belts, the single plies that we have, if you've never used a belt before, that's going to be the most flexible and have like the most broken in feeling that people call it, you know, right out of the box. There's not going to be, you know, a period of time where it's super stiff and you got to, you know, do stuff to it to make it comfortable. So it really comes down to just explaining the attributes to people and kind of letting them make their, because, you know, so much of it is going to be just preference.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of that, just explaining the attributes of different belts to people to help them make the decision for them.
And it's sometimes I try to get a feel for if they've ever used a belt, and if so, what kind of belt, because if it's someone who's been powerlifting or is kind of into it, that's what all their friends do. And they've only ever seen someone use like a 13 millimeter.
Right. They'll have like a 13 millimeter lever belt and they weigh like 135 pounds.
Yeah. And it's 4-inch, brand new out the door. And they're like, I hate this. And I'm like,
it's
well,
like putting a 2x4 around your waist.
I'm like, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of belt for most people, especially anyone new. And so it's kind of good to know, like sometimes they've only ever used a Velcro belt. And so they'll get our single ply and say, oh my gosh, this is so stiff. I don't like this. Yeah. And I can't change their mind. That's their perspective. And that's all they know, you know. And then other people are like, they expect that 13 millimeter really stiff. And they're like, your belt's really flexible. And I'm like, well, it's, you know, it's not as thick and it's made of different material. And
that's a good point too, that I didn't mention, is like, one thing is figuring out what are their expectations for this belt, because that'll definitely help point them in the right direction as far as what to get.
I said that in a lot more words, but pretty much you find where their actual starting point is, right? Because every new lifter is starting in a very different place than others. And I've figured that out along the way.
Yeah.
The only people that I almost always recommend a single ply to is if they mention that they're an older, or I don't want to put an age on it, but they say, hey, I'm older. This is my belt. You know, I've got like movement goals, but not trying to break any state records. I'll mention, especially for women, I'll mention, hey, you know, if grip strength is ever an issue for you, our single ply is the easiest buckle belt to get on and off.
That's super smart.
Well, we've had a couple coaches actually who have mentioned that to us and said, hey, her grip is kind of tough. She's worried about that. And we've had better luck. Maybe that'll help someone if they
You guys really think of everything. That's amazing.
We really do care.
Yeah.
It makes my day when someone comments back and says, oh my gosh, thanks. This is the perfect belt. It's like, oh, good.
Yeah, that's rad. And were you sure right away that you were going to go into dip belts and lifting straps? Is that like a natural progression when you're in the lifting community, or how'd you know when to diversify?
I actually had a dip belt going when I was still sourcing from overseas. So that was one of the ideas from the beginning. It wasn't made out of leather. It was one of those.
I have that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Webbing material and stuff. Yeah. So I had the idea to try that, you know, pretty early on. And then the lifting straps, after you've made a few hundred belts, you end up with these pieces of leather that are too short to make a belt out of, and you start staring at it, and you're like, what else can be made of this? And lifting straps, of course, we make those deadlift jacks, like the little barbell jacks to roll the weights onto to load and unload your bar. A lot of those ideas are just, what can we do with this leather that we can't make a belt out of, but it's still, good quality stuff.
These are great stocking stuffers for anybody who's one of those really psychos that I really respect that do their Christmas shopping in August.
I respect them too, because most people, with all the orders, that's not what most people do.
Right. You have like belts that you can get like right now. Are most of your belts like that? All of them like that?
So our overall lead time that we have on the website, just as we're recording this, is 3 to 5 weeks. We're a lot closer to the 3 weeks right now. We try to, under promise a little bit on that. A single ply, we're turning those around in about a week. Dang. So that's the quickest you can get any of the belts to get a single ply right now.
That's so good. I remember waiting like 12 weeks for my belt when I first got it. And you like wait so long that you forgot that you ordered it.
Right.
That's rad. And you still have everything on Amazon too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, that's badass. Well, guys, I think it's amazing what you've done. It's really cool to see you like enter a part of the strength training world that it's a pretty small market, but I love how people love lifting and training so much that they figure out different ways to experience it. And you really took the initiative on like answering like a big problem that a lot of us were dealing with. And man, it's really cool to see like your products every year. They're just stunning. Yeah.
Thanks. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. We both love training, and coaching's really hard, but I can make a belt. So I leave the coaching to y'all. Bless the coaches out there. Bless my coach. Shout out Ness.
Are you with Ness? Yeah.
Yes.
She's so good.
Bless her. The more I train, the more I realize how I feel like you guys pay attention to the details in coaching, as that's what we do with our belts and our business. And so I respect it.
I think that's why we're all good friends. What can we nerd out on? Let's nerd out on that. Let's figure that out. Do you guys have any training goals for the rest of the year?
Don't stop. That's the hardest thing when we get really busy.
For sure.
The last few weeks, we've actually been moving the business. We moved from our old space to this space that's a little bit bigger. And so training was down to like 2 days a week, if that.
For sure.
A couple weeks.
I'm just looking at all the heavy things that are in the background right now when you had to move all of those, I'm guessing, on your own.
A forklift makes all the difference.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, our landlord has a forklift that he keeps kind of like in the vicinity so that anybody that needs it can use it. So we were able to spend a Saturday and get all the heavy stuff moved.
Thank goodness. Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, I kept like walking with a chair, and he was like, "What are you doing? I have a forklift." I was like, "Well, I'm walking doing nothing. So we're just going to take the chair."
Is it like, would OSHA not be cool with you sitting on the chair on the forklift?
There may or may not be an incriminating video. I'll send it to you personally. Y'all can weigh in on it.
Love it.
You told me that once. I think it's when we were moving to Florida. And I asked you, like, what do you think I should do with my training? Because, like, we're not going to have coaches. We're moving. And you said that. You were like, just don't stop. Don't stop training. And then I did.
Brutal to get back into, right?
It was so tough, but I'm so glad we started back.
Yeah.
Training goals. I'd kind of like to get back in. I'm in a holding pattern right now, just because we've had a lot going on, including the move. But, and then I had tendonitis flare up really badly, elbow tendon.
Oh, that's right. I've been watching that. Yeah.
So I'd love to try to get back into like regular training again. I would just like to lift a little bit heavier. I think I'm about ready. Maybe chin ups. I've had to let those go. I tried the other day. I didn't tell Ness. My elbows hurt for like 2 days after. I was like, I just won't let her know. It's my fault. I know I did 3 chin-ups. I was so mad. I was like, that's it?
Still pretty freaking awesome.
I'm glad I can still do them. It took me forever to do one. So that's cool that I haven't done one in a long time. And I was like, okay.
That's right. No, I stalk you guys on Instagram. I know how strong you are.
Oh, yeah. I'm like disappearing on Instagram. I used to post and now I'm like, meh, I don't know. I'll just be that person who comments and never posts.
Will you post video of her sewing, Blake? That would be amazing when she sews for the first time.
Definitely. Definitely will.
Put it on mute. So you don't hear me like, ah.
Oh God, oh God, oh God. So where can everybody find you?
So DominionStrengthTraining.com is the website, at Dominion Strength on Instagram, both places there. For new products and stuff like that, we'll usually put those up on Instagram. So good to follow us there. We'll have every once in a while something we call like a special belt deal. So if we have a belt that we have like a minor defect on, like we screwed up something small, it's not structural or anything. It's just like a minor cosmetic thing. We'll throw that up for, a special price and somebody can snag that. Nice. And the good thing there is you don't have to wait on it. We can ship that out as soon as the order comes in.
Dang, that's awesome. And it sounds like you all are very open to getting questions about like, what belt should I get? Is this one better than the other? And they can find you.
Yeah, you can shoot us an email, team@dominionstrength.com. Awesome. You'll be talking to Katie.
Yay, team.
Yay. That's the collective we, right?
Well, I love that I got to speak to the whole company today. It was really, thanks for taking the time. Yeah. I can see someone did not unload their barbell in the back. Who was that?
That's me. I have to oil the bar though. I'm going to do it. I didn't have time to oil the bar down. They get a little rusty because Florida humidity. Yeah. So I need to oil them down. And I was like, I don't have time to do that before the podcast. I don't want to be late. So
awesome.
Gym real broken.
That's all right. It's your own gym. You can do what you want. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Katie and Blake, and awesome to see you like making such a wonderful business. Keep it up.
Yeah. Thanks, Niki.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.